Welcome to the third episode of IIT Dhanbad Startup Story with Soni. Today, our guest is Sid Gupta, CEO and co-founder of Nesh. Welcome to the show, Sid.
Hey Soni, how are you?
Good man. How are you?
Not too bad. Good to see you after a long time.
Yeah, good to see you. Just so you know, audience, Sid is my classmate from ISM. We're both from 2006 batch. And Sid, you are in Houston right now, right?
I am, yeah, yeah, having one of those good weather days in Houston right now. Yeah,
Yeah, well, winters are really good there, right? Summers are hot like India.
yeah, summers are brutal. The winters are not too bad. It's a nice sunny day outside right now.
All right. Well, we don't have bad weather in Vancouver today either. Usually it's raining most of the times, but not today.
Yeah, I envy you being in Vancouver.
Well, winters are not that good though. Awesome. So Sid, maybe let's touch a little bit about your background. I mean, I know pretty much everything about you, but I'd love to hear from you a little bit about your background, ISM, and then work and where did you go after ISM, and then how you. I mean, we will talk about the current startup a little later, but yeah.
Sure. Yeah. So I mean, I guess this is a repeat for you, but so I joined ISM just like you in 2002. I was originally in mining engineering, and then gonna spend my first year in mining engineering. Then I did a couple of internships in mining. So I did one in an underground coal mine and one in open cast iron ore mine, and then kind of changed my mind that that wasn't really the fit for me. Once I went down the shaft into an underground coal mine, I decided, okay, no, I can't do this for my whole life. So I decided to switch majors and then went into petroleum in my second year. So I graduated from ISM in petroleum engineering 2006, and then I went to work for Schlumberger in Bombay as a production engineer. So after that, kind of worked there for 2 years in Bombay as a production engineer, kind of working a little bit offshore, mostly in the office. And then after that, it was a really fun time. Like like the ISM years, the 4 years. I mean, everybody knows that. And then 2 years in Bombay, that was a great learning experience. And then after that, kind of decided to take a break and come get my master's, just like you did too, kind of similarly. I came here to Austin, went to UT Austin for my master's, petroleum engineering as well. And then kind of that Schlumberger drew me back in after that. So I went to work for Schlumberger again, but this time in Houston. And I kind of stayed there since then. So I'm still in Houston. It's a
Oh
comfortable
wow.
place. I haven't left. So that's kind of like the journey from ISM to where I am right now.
So you are fundamentally, mining as well as petroleum department,
Yeah, I represent the two best ones.
Well, that's what ISM is known for, right?
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, that's an interesting journey, mining to petroleum to now, running a tech company. So, Sid, tell me, like, how did you end up like starting a company? Most of the petroleum folks, or in the history, like our seniors too, right? They always work for some big companies, and and you end up starting the company. So, what inspired you to start a company at first place? And then love to kind of hear more about your current startup, Nash.
Yeah, I mean my story is probably not unlike a lot of the other founders, kind of same thing. So I was comfortable in my previous job, but there was always something in the back of your mind, that little thing that keeps bugging you to do something. And the same thing, I worked for Schlumberger sort of most of my career. I had a little stint in Shell in between. So I worked for large companies, kind of similar to everybody else in the oil and gas industry. That was the matter of pride for all of us to go work for a large international organization. Uh, but yeah, I mean, I was there for Schlumberger for a long time, like from 2006 to 2008 in Bombay, and then from 2010 to 18 here in Houston, and kind of went through different roles while at Schlumberger. And one of the things, like kind of, it wasn't just one singular moment that led up to Nesh. There was a lot of small things, that added up. And it was like, I mean, seeing you guys start things too, that was like a big thing because people usually like follow others when they see it's possible. And I saw a few of my friends startup journeys, like you being one of them. You started Login Radius before I started Nesh, and saw you become successful in that. So that was quite inspiring. And then another friend of mine in India, he started like his startup is massive now. It's called Chayos. Uh, so
Oh, wow, yeah.
he
Chaos
started
is a
that.
big, yeah.
Yeah, it's a huge like a chai chain now in India. So he was a very close friend of mine from Lucknow. So he started that as well. So kind of seeing those kind of tangible figures, human people we know very closely, being able to do that, that was something that always inspired me. So that was one. Then the second thing was like, you see a problem and you think that, okay, well, that's something I want to solve. And you look around and you see, well, why isn't anybody doing something about it? So that was the other thing. Like I saw a big issue, and I'll talk about it later. It's like there was a problem that wasn't being solved in the oil and gas industry. So that kind of had that genesis. Like, okay, well, let me do that. And then the third thing was that thing in the back of your head. It's like, well, do I want to keep doing this, that 9 to 5 every day, or do I want to do something slightly different, take on a bigger challenge, and then see where that leads? So it was a leap of faith. So kind of all of those things led up to that moment, like in summer of 2018 when I quit my job to start Nesh. So that's how, yeah, so that's how we got started. So yeah, I would say like it's a lot of like friends kind of doing this and then seeing a problem big enough to be solved, and then kind of talking to my wife about it, and then deciding, yes, this is a good time to do this. Yeah.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, it's a big mental barrier for a lot of people, right? And
Yeah.
it takes time.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that's
Yeah.
awesome. So, see, tell me a little bit about your company Nash first, and then we'd love to know more about how you end up in, end up on the idea itself.
Yeah, sure. So what we do at Nesh, in a nutshell, we allow companies to talk to their data. That's essentially what Nesh is. So it's like a combination of Google, IBM Watson, and Alexa in one tool, if you will. So we allow companies to upload their data into Nesh, and then they can have a conversation with that data. That's kind of in a nutshell what we do. Now, how it came about was when I used to work at Schlumberger. One of the things that I saw, that these large oil and gas companies who we were working with, which were our customers, they were hiring a lot of data scientists internally to go solve data problems for them. This was like back in 2016, 2015, 2016 kind of timeline. So I think you may remember too, there's a lot of data scientists kind of coming up on LinkedIn. There was a lot of job posts and companies were hiring data scientists like crazy. And most of these data scientists, they were working with structured data, like numbers and time series, like in Excel files and things like that. So they were excellent with that. But there was this part of the data set that was kind of going unaddressed, which was unstructured data, like PDFs and PowerPoints and Word documents and web pages and emails, things like that, that had like kind of unconstrained language and data in it. It was like the wild west stuff, and people weren't really paying attention to it, and there was so much data kind of trapped in there. So that's where I saw the opportunity, that people are hiring data scientists to look at structured data while most of the data in the company is unstructured, like about 80%. So why isn't anybody doing anything about it? So, and the solutions that existed out there, they were quite expensive and mostly kind of created by very large enterprise organizations that were hard to kind of work with, like IBM being one of them. So that kind of what led up to the idea of Nesh. Is like, can we create an AI that can analyze unstructured data and do it in a very simple way, like the simplest way possible, like having a conversation with somebody? That's what led up to the idea of Nesh. And there was a lot of like market research that went into it to figure out, like, is this something of value, and is this really something people care about? Is unstructured data something people care about? Are they willing to pay for it or not? So once we had some proof that yes, this is a real pain point, the market is large enough for this, there's companies out there who are having this issue and they have a quantifiable value prop associated to it, then we made the decision that yes, this is something that let's try and take a stab at it.
I see. So you fundamentally face this problem by yourself while you're working.
I did,
And
yeah. I mean, I don't know if you've seen this, like, when people are in a meeting and somebody has a question in that meeting and somebody says, well, does anybody know the answer to this question? And
yeah,
nobody knows it. And somebody has to step out of the meeting room and go find the answer to it. and 20 minutes later they come back and people have moved on since then. And this cycle just keeps repeating. I used to see this all the time, that in our customers inside Schlumberger, people would have this kind of latency in getting answers. So I was like, well, why can't we do anything about it? I mean, at home, I have Alexa, I have Google Assistant and all these things. Why can't I have something like this at work where I can ask a question and get an answer and move along and move on? So that's what was the idea. It's like, okay, can we do this with as an enterprise solution that we can bring that to the customers?
Oh, this is pretty cool. Like not only like even personal life, right? We have a lot of information and documents, and it's very hard to kind of get the information. We need to look for it. And yeah, business front, I can totally understand the pain and frustration and the loss of productivity, right? And
Right. Yeah. Yeah. There's
no,
so much
that's
waste in just looking at that.
yeah, such a loss of productivity. So does that mean like Nash is, let's say I have Nash in login radius, let's say. So it's just more like I just speak to the Nash and Nash is gonna find me the answers. Is that what it is?
Yeah, I mean, we do have a speech and a typing component to it. So you can type your question in or you can speak to it. Like some of our customers don't like the speech aspect just because they are working in the office and they don't feel comfortable talking and publicly saying what's on their mind.
Yeah,
So we kind of allow most of the users right now kind of type their question in. So it allows like a natural language input. You type your question in just like you would text a friend or just do a Google search essentially. So you type your question in, then Nesh comes back with the answer to that question.
I see. So does that mean like I need to integrate like various data sources with Nash? Like say my all the docs or like my wiki or internal websites like SharePoints. Like how does Nash knows all the information? Or is it
Yeah,
like manually I need to upload all the information?
yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's a good question. So there are kind of two types of data sets that we work with. One is publicly available data, like things that are in the public domain, like websites, 10K, 10Qs of companies, investor presentations, earnings call transcript, public information that's just there on the internet. So that's kind of connected with Nesh out of the box. So those are kind of solutions. Those are data sources that are connected out of the box. And then when you're connected to your internal company data, then you need to integrate, like you said. So we can connect to SharePoint, we can connect to your internal company wikis. You can upload your documents into Nesh. Like let's say on your computer you have some 5,000 PDFs, and then you're like, I wish I could search through all of those. So you can upload all of that into Nesh, and then we'll just kind of process that through our extraction pipeline, and then users can then start asking questions about through those data sources.
Okay, that's pretty cool. And then how do you see like differ from some of the search capability tools like I forgot the name,
Oh,
Algolian?
Algolia? Yeah, Algolia. Yeah. They're one of the large enterprise search companies. There are quite a few enterprise search companies actually, like Algolia, Coveo, LucidWorks, and then Amazon and Microsoft has their search engines too. So usually the way we differentiate is that search engines, like enterprise search engines, they don't give you answers, they give you documents, right? So when you ask for something, they give you a list of documents, and then you have to open each document one by one and hope that your answer is in there. So you open a document, then you do a control F inside it to look for the answer, right?
I
So
see.
it's essentially a two-step process when you're looking through an enterprise search engine. With Nesh, you only ask a question once, and we actually land you on that exact line or the paragraph where the answer sits. So you don't have to open 50 documents and hopefully one of them has the answer that you're looking for.
I see. Wow, that's way much better experience, right, for the user. Awesome. And Sid, so tell me a little bit about what stage your company is in right now.
Yeah, so we're still kind of early. Like we're still, our technology is still developing. We started the company in the summer of 2018, so a little over 2 years old now, 2.5 years old now. We have a few enterprise customers. Like most of our customers are in kind of in oil and gas. Some are in chemical industry. Some are in power and utilities industry. So we are kind of mainly focused on the heavy industries right now. So we have kind of customers in some of those areas. We're still a small company. We're six people in the organization right now. kind of split between Houston and India. Some of our core team members are in Houston, and then through COVID, we found out how great distributed teams can work. So we have
Yeah.
some team members remote as well now. But yeah, we raised a pre-seed round, and now we're in the process of raising a seed round. So that's sort of the stage kind of people can recognize like seed stage company. That's where we are at the moment.
So you have a good version of your product already working, and
Yeah.
you guys already have customers, right? And you guys also have revenue.
Yes.
Correct. Okay,
Correct.
so you are not like very idea stage or just MVP. You are almost getting into the growth stage, seems like.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's hard to know where you are on
Yeah.
the curve. Start going up. So I don't know if we are at that inflection point of the hockey stick, or we are kind of still at the flat stage of that hockey stick. But yeah, we have customers, we are paying customers who are kind of in the contract phase, not just proof of concept. And then we have enterprise deals with them. But like from a standpoint, I mean, we still have huge milestones to hit this year. 2020 was kind of slow, just like everybody else.
Yeah.
So we have ambitious plans for this year. But yeah, you're right.
So you are mainly targeting the large companies then, Sid, right? You're not targeting like a smaller and like smaller companies or startups.
Yeah, not really. I mean, our kind of ideal customer is 500 employees and upwards. That's the type of organizations we're going after, and preferably towards the other end of like the larger end of the spectrum. So like Shell, BSF, Equinor, some of the Hubble, some of those companies are our customers, and then that is a good representative sample, kind of like the ideal customer for us.
Got it. And how big is the market set for your company?
Yeah, so I mean, the way I look at the market is kind of like our immediate market that we're going after, and then also in the long term of the company, the market that we could potentially capture. Like our immediate market, you're focusing on the oil and gas industry, which includes like upstream, midstream, downstream, all three. Then there is power and utilities, there's chemical, and there's industrial automation companies. Those are the four industries that we're going after initially. And roughly there's about 8,000 companies in those four areas across like North America and across the world included. And then in the fullness of time, like over the lifetime of the company, we want to expand out to manufacturing, construction, and finance as well. But that's kind of like a couple of years down the road. And if you look at those companies as well, then total market was about like 270,000 odd companies in the world.
Wow.
So if I kind of multiply that with our pricing point that we sell our software for, that's about like 80 billion market. But
That's a massive market. Yeah. That's a
yeah, I mean,
massive.
we're hoping to
And
get a
that,
very small pie of it.
that very small would be quite big too, Sid. And are you targeting Indian market as well, or mainly focusing on US at the moment?
We are, I mean, because our software has a natural language sort of an attribute to it, the only caveat for us is the documentation should be in English. So any country that does business in English, I think that's a fair game for us. So I think India, Southeast Asia, like any country, I think that's fine. We don't really have customers there. It's just because the customer acquisition process is slightly different. Like it's like bidding and RFP and all of those takes a little bit time there. That's the reason why we haven't focused too much, and you need somebody there on the ground to run the sales. So we haven't really done that yet. But yeah, I mean, generally speaking, any company across the world who does business in English is a potential customer for us.
Great. And so I think you build pretty cool technology and you're solving this massive problem pretty much every person is probably experiencing within a company. Love to hear a little bit about your future plans if you want to share something with the audience.
Yeah, I mean, so for future plans, I mean, this year, like, would kind of make up for 2020. That's the
Yeah.
short plan for 2021 is like all the business that we lost kind of make up for that and a little bit more. So for 2021, like our plan is to hit like $1 million revenue and go above it, which is like a big milestone that every startup aspires for. So that's one of the kind of like the short-term goals that we're looking at. We're also kind of raising our seed round. So that's one of the other key objectives we want to hit, and also scale up the team. So we are looking at hiring some of the key kind of roles this year: technical and business development and sales. Kind of long term, zooming a little bit out, like kind of expanding out of those sectors that I mentioned. So currently our focus is on that energy, chemical, and power sector. So going out of those, because the manufacturing and construction sector is quite massive. So we want to get to that point. But for us to be able to do that, the product needs to be a bit more mature. It needs to be a bit more scalable. So that's kind of something that we're working towards this year and early next year to kind of accomplish that. Those are the main, I mean, revenue wise, we're that 1 million milestone is a huge one that we're aiming for, and the entire team is kind of driving towards it.
Yeah, well, that would be a very defining moment for your company journey, right?
Yeah.
And what I heard seems like 2021 going to be a busy year for you guys.
Yeah, we are hoping so too. Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome. All right, let's move on to my next segment. I'd love to hear, Sid, the biggest challenge you have faced so far as an entrepreneur, not just from your company perspective, but you as an entrepreneur, in this journey. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's where to start, Soni. You know, you
I know.
you've probably seen this too. I mean, there's quite a few. I mean, one is like that inflection point when you quit the job, or like that's a difficult one. And I remember that very clearly because we were in the process of fundraising, right? We were raising our pre-seed round, and one of our investors, like who we had kind of gotten a long distance with, and we kind of pitched to the investment committee, and that's like the last stage of getting investment. And that investor kind of told us that, hey Sid, investment committee has never turned down any investment so far if we get to this stage, so don't jinx it. And we jinxed it, so they turned us down. They said, no, we can't invest in you guys because you guys don't have skin in the game. You're still employed with your previous organization. So that was the kind of like the defining moment for us. We're like, okay, well, these guys are ready to invest if we quit our jobs, and we have kind of like two legs in two different boats. So like my co-founder and I, we kind of called each other up and we said, okay, well, do you want to do this? Are you ready to do this? So we both kind of quit our jobs on the same day. It was like end of July in 2018. So we both kind of gave our resignation letters on the same day, and then went back to the investment committee, and then they closed our round. So that was the kind of the reason it led up to it. So that was one of the challenges, is like, how do you get comfortable with the fact that you're letting go of a good salary, and like kind of making sure like every 2 weeks you get a certain amount in your bank. That comfort level you have to let go. Then, I mean, of course, I mean, and the biggest thing to do that is not just the decision that you make, but also the support from your family and your spouse. I guess those are the two big things, because if they're not supportive and they're not bought into the idea, it becomes very hard to keep doing that. Then, I mean, I think fundraising, as you know, is never easy. It's always hard, no matter how much you've raised before. So that always is a challenge, right? And especially with COVID, when you see that, hey, your bank account is going down now and you still have to give payroll. How do you reduce burn rate? How do you have that difficult conversation with the team saying that, hey, are you guys ready to take a pay cut? That's extremely difficult. You've never, especially as a first-time founder, you've never done this. So that was very stressful, kind of like sometime last year, I think the second quarter last year, kind of having that conversation with the team. That was a big challenge. And then hiring, I guess hiring is sometimes extremely hard. I think it's harder than fundraising, like finding the right person and the fit, especially those early employees. When you don't have a process, you're still figuring it out. That is a big challenge. And I would say, I mean, I don't think we still have figured it out. We're still kind of just toying with different ideas and see what works. But yeah, I mean, hiring is an extreme challenge, like on the technical side, on the sales side too. I think we have the technical side a little bit more refined, but on the sales side, we're still figuring it out, because salespeople know how to sell themselves. So it's hard to tell what is good and what is not.
That's
So
so true. I would say within hiring, recruiting salespeople is the hardest one.
yeah,
Like, very hard to know who is lying and who is not.
yeah,
I
yeah.
100% agree with you on
How
that.
did you guys figure that out? Like, do you have that figured out yet, or are you still kind of in the
I
process?
would say my success rate is not that great. So I'm still figuring it out.
Yeah, I know that's a one. But yeah, I mean, those are the, I would think, like three main I can think of right now.
Yeah, yeah. No, these are pretty common, and requires a lot of thinking and working, and they're constantly evolving too, right? These challenges. And yeah, 2020 has been quite tough for most of the entrepreneurs and executives, especially from finance point of view. But yeah, kudos, you guys survived. That's all mattered in 2020, if you survived or not.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. This year, like flat was the new growth. So
Yeah, it was tough, man. It was tough. And Sid, what's your biggest learning so far? Like the one most important learning you had in this journey? Yeah.
uh I mean, I would say like don't wait to start something if you know you want to do it, because I think that's what always is there will always be something holding you back. That next promotion or the next new role in the company or that next pay raise, there'll always be something that'll be holding you back. I mean, if you think that you want to do this and that this is something you got to think long and hard about, but if you feel you want to do something and you want to wake up to that thing like for the next 5 years kind of doing that, then don't wait and then take that plunge and see how it works out. I mean, worst case scenario, it wouldn't, and then you can always go back and find a job again. But it's worth taking that risk, and there will never be a perfect timing. There'll always be something that is in the horizon that could be better. But if you feel that you have a problem that is nagging you, and you feel you want to solve it, and you have a good partner you want to solve this with, then take that leap. I think it's a good time. It's always is a good time.
Got it. And
Yeah.
then in terms of the biggest advice you can give to the audience, what that would be, all the fellow entrepreneurs from IIT Dhanbad.
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest advice is make sure. I mean, kind of like kind of adding on top of that, like the previous thing that I may mention, like if you think you have a problem, if you think you have an idea and you want to tackle it, just solve it. The other biggest advice, kind of like piggybacking off of that, is make sure that problem is actually worth solving. Just because you think you're passionate about that doesn't really make it a good business model. So think about that, because we had to make a lot of pivots along the way, and I'm sure you probably have had to do it too. Just make sure that the business model is solid, right? I mean, sometimes you think, okay, this is a fantastic idea, I want to do this, and I'm sure people will come and buy. It's never like that. You build, and people will come. There, you always have to sell it. So you're going to make sure that your business model is perfect, and it's easier said than done. So sit down, think hard about it, write like a short document if you have to, kind of put your thoughts on paper, and then validate it and talk to people. Because if you internalize it and you always kind of do like looking for positive reinforcements, everyone will tell you, yes, this is a great thing, go do it. But make sure your people are criticizing you so you can kind of critique that idea better. So talk to people, think about it long and hard, write it down, analyze it, and then look at it from different angles and see if that business model makes sense. And when those two things kind of happen, that yes, your idea is passionate enough and you think that this is something you want to do, and the business model says yes, you should do it, then I think you should then take that leap and then decide to go do it. Because I mean, of course, you can always do it as you're going along the journey. It just becomes harder when other people are bought into it and you have to go back to your team and say, hey guys, by the way, we need to change directions now. There's always to kind of do that ahead of time better.
Yeah, that's so true. Like I think most of the startups are being started by engineers. They kind of miss out this whole sales and business model, that end of the day you need to drive the revenue. And
Right.
a lot of entrepreneurs start their journey without realizing it, and then the failure is pretty sure. So
Yeah.
yeah, validating the problem and validating there is a market who is willing to pay for the solution is so critical
Yeah.
before you quit your job, I would
Other thing
say.
is also around like the investment side of things, right? I mean, we always the other thing that we always people always talk about, like you, companies measure startups by the amount of money that they have raised, because that's what you see in the media, right? You always
That's
see
pretty
like,
stupid though.
yeah, like
I
startups
personally don't do that.
dollars on such and such valuation, and it always creates this like pressure on you, like, oh well, that person did it, why can't I do it, right? So just focus on like sales more than like fundraising, because ultimately customers is what matters. Investors don't care. You shouldn't care about investors either. I mean, care about the customers, and once you do that, then the investors will come. I think this is something that I realized kind of later on too, like because you're so caught up in that whole fundraising thing that I need to go raise 5 million, 10 million, whatever, at such and such valuation. People get caught up on it, and it also affects your mental health in some cases. So focus more on customers, and try to grow from there. That's, I think, important too for anybody to know, because oftentimes when you read the media, it portrays it very differently than what it actually is.
Yeah, I always tell like my team, like customers are our biggest investors. If they're
Right.
investing their money in
Yeah.
us, that's all
Yeah.
we need.
Yeah. And it's non-dilutive.
Yeah. All right, that's very, very great advice and learning from you, Sid. Let's move on to quick rapid fire questions for you.
Okay.
So, what's your favorite book?
What's my favorite book? Okay. Well, there are a couple. I mean, I don't know, like from a business standpoint, like like you got to read books to figure out what other people have done. Like from a business standpoint, the one that I like the most is Shoe Dog. It's like by Phil Knight, the guy who founded Nike.
Yeah, I'm reading that book right now, actually.
Oh yeah, yeah, it is fantastic. It was like I remember reading it. I think I was going flying back to India. I read it on the plane. It was a really good book. So that's I like that. There's another one that I like. Kind of, it's not business related. It's like called When Breath Becomes Air. Uh, it's written by a guy who kind of he's a doctor who died of cancer, but he wrote this memoir about like his family, and it's about like human and kind of like connections, and how you should be like connected to your family and friends, that sort of thing. It's very well written. So it's a little bit of an emotional roller coaster book, but it's really good. So those are the two that are kind of my favorite.
I'll look into the second one, but yeah, first one I'm already reading. It's a really good
Okay,
book. So,
yeah, I hope you enjoy it. Yeah.
and Sid, what's your favorite spot in IIT Dhanbad when you
My,
were a student?
my favorite spot. Oh. I gotta say, like, like I never drank tea, so I can't claim that RD was my favorite spot, even though I liked tea a lot. I
Yeah,
used to
I was not a tea drinker either.
I used to hang out with my friends at RD, but my favorite spot I would say the canteen, like like the open area in front, and where we would have like Maggie noodles and all of that, and people would just hang out and talk and all that. Yeah, I think that canteen I miss the most. Yeah.
Yeah, I think things have might change a lot since then. When did you visit last time, Sid?
I visited 2007, so I went back to recruit in ISM. I remember that was a long time ago.
Yeah, probably
Yeah.
things have completely changed by now. But yeah, I did not go yet since graduating in
Oh,
2006.
you haven't gone back since then?
No,
Oh.
man, it's so sad. Hopefully someday.
I've seen videos and stuff. I've seen the YouTube videos of the new campus, and like the canteen can still, I mean, it looks familiar. You can still tell the layout and all of that is still the same. It's front of Opal Hostel. So all of that is still there. But yeah, that was one of my favorite spots.
Oh, that's awesome. And who is your idol?
Who is my idol? Oh, okay, that's a difficult one. Let's see. I don't think there's one person. There's a lot of qualities in different people that I admire. Like I like Elon Musk, like as an entrepreneur, and kind of like setting goals and achieving ambitious goals. I like the guy, but then certain aspects of him I don't really care for. But then like the other like I think I like as a whole per like Bill Gates is a really good person that I look up to. I've read all his books and stuff. So him as like a well-rounded person, and then kind of caring about people around him, caring about his employees and the world as a whole. Those are two main kind of like people that I look up to from like an entrepreneur standpoint, of like build immensely successful companies.
All right. Yeah, these are extremely successful and people, right? And yeah,
Yeah.
there's a lot to learn from them.
Yeah.
Awesome. So Sid, thank you for joining the show, sharing your journey and sharing some tips for fellow entrepreneurs. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so
And
much.
really enjoyed our conversation.
I know it was good catching up with you. I know we met in Vancouver. When was it? Like a year, 2 years ago? I guess we didn't meet last year. It was a year, the year before
Yeah, it
that.
was a few years
Yeah.
ago when you were visiting Vancouver.
Yeah, it was fun times. Good catching up with you again. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks, Zen. Yeah, and good luck with Nash, and look forward, getting more, exciting news about your company and you.
Thank you, and good luck with Login Radius as well. I know it's a exciting year for both of us, hopefully.
All right. Thanks, Nash.